You are listening to 30 Wasted Years by a self-proclaimed, frustrated self-help junkie. If I may paraphrase the great American philosopher Jim Rome, maybe failures should write books about their lives. Then you would know what not to do. After spending 30 years of immersing himself in the industry's books, audios, CDs, and programs, and not receiving the success he has dreamed of, Jeff Grundy introduces 30 Wasted Years, a podcasting mastermind. Located on the web at 30wastedyears.com or found in the iTunes Store, these short podcasts may just be the medicine you've been looking for to cure that frustration the self-improvement industry has created in you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of 30 Wasted Years. That's it. It's a podcast where we talk about the self-help industry and how only 3% of the people that follow the advice actually succeed and get what they dream about, what they really desire. But what about the other 97%? The percent that I'm in, that really try year after year for 30 years following this information from the self-help industry, and yet don't have that huge house on the hill, or what it is that you are seeking. So that's what we look at, and we try and decide, is it the self-help industry's fault or our own fault? And I'd love to hear your comments. We've been getting some great comments, and I'd just love to hear what you have to say on the subject. And I hope people, all the listeners that listened to last week's edition, I really hope you liked it. It was kind of different, and it really made me think. I had read this, if you were not familiar with it, basically the person, it was a sales letter or an ebook he wrote in order to sell his product, saying that the self-help industry doesn't work because it in itself says there's something wrong with you, and yet that we're all perfect the way we are, and that there is no person that's going to give you that answer because you already have the answer within you. And that's sort of paraphrasing it, and really, if you haven't listened to that podcast, go back and listen to the previous one. Really makes you think that, wow, I don't need self-help because I'm all right. But let's look at that now. If we are okay, but we're not becoming successful, why? Is it like he says that everyone else has told us that we're something wrong with us, so we just believe it and we don't become successful? Well, all of us that listened to that podcast a couple days ago, we now know we're perfect. Have we become successful since then? Well, I haven't. If you have, I'd love to hear your story. That would be great. What a turnaround. And obviously, you have to go through the person's course and correct things, and he's really into The Secret. Actually, he was supposed to be the person behind The Secret. I don't know if that's true or not, but and believes in the law of attraction and a lot of that. And I think that's important. We talked about that a little bit, but there's so many people out there that listen saw the movie The Secret, and nothing's happened since then. You know, they tried, they did this, they did that, and a lot of people say, well, it's subconscious, you don't know better, you're just thinking one thing, but your subconscious is doing another thing. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but what we all want to know that is how to change the subconscious. What we want to know is what's going to make us successful. And I think a lot of it has to do with action, and we've talked about that a few times before. And how many people are out there listening to everything they can get their hands on instead of taking actual action, meaning that you read one book and you get all excited about it, nothing happens in the first few weeks or even months, and then you read another book that promises you this, or a CD program promises you that, so you jump onto that, and you forget about what you were doing before, and you're spending all your time listening and learning and not doing anything. And that possibly is a huge factor in not becoming successful. Also, I think frustration. I mean, how many of you, I know I am a lot of the time, frustrated that everybody else seems to be becoming successful. You read so many stories about this person did this, and this person did that, and they're making this much money and that much money, and wondering, I've been doing for 20 years reading this stuff, and I'm not making those tons of money that they are, and it gets a little frustrating. So then I think once you're frustrated, that sort of hurts you. I was listening to something by the guy from the Sedona Method, Hale, I think is how he pronounces his name, and saying you have to live in the moment, and that when you have all that frustration, you're like looking through foggy sunglasses, and you can't really see the way things are, and once you take those sunglasses off and live in the moment, and that frustration's gone, then you can become a lot better, a lot more successful. And I'd just be really interested to find out how many people do the Sedona Method actually do it, and actually become successful. Is it that same 3%? And so that goes back to, is that destiny, that no matter what you do, 3% of the people are going to become successful, 97 aren't? I hate to think that. I mean, it's just such a defeating kind of thing to think that. So I guess the key is, how do you get out of the 97% and into the 3%? And is it back to that action? Is it implementing? Is it taking one program and just doing it no matter what happens? How do you know how long to do it without it happening before you try another program? Or is it forever? I mean, can you pick one program and year after year after year, if nothing happens? I don't know. I mean, what do you think? I'd like to hear some comments on that. How do you know when you've done something long enough and it's time to change? Because maybe it's just not for you, and I think that might be a big key. It's just not for you. But you got to do something, and you can't be thinking, well, I'm doing something and just going through the motions and not really doing it. And I think a good example of that, I was listening to Heather Vale. She does a lot of interviews with successful and unsuccessful, successful people, motivational type stuff, And then she does a lot of internet stuff also. You might want to check out her podcast. But one thing she said was, a lot of people talk about if you're going to make money on the internet, you have to go to offline events, that people give. And I don't know if that advice is just for the people that give offline events, want people coming to them because they make a lot of money at them, or if it's really true. And I would think it helps a lot to go to these offline events. And they say that you have to, the big part about that is networking and meeting people. And then you can start alliances and doing joint ventures and on and on and on. But she says what she notices is 95% of the people go to these things and then they just sit in their chairs and wait for the speaker to start, and they don't actually do that networking. But they think in their mind they're doing the right thing because they paid all this money for airfare and hotel fare to go to the event, but when they actually get to the event, they're not doing what they really need to be doing, although in their mind they're thinking, I did that, and nothing happened. And so can we take that back to what we do in our normal lives? Are we thinking we're actually taking action, but we're not? We're just going through the motions, and that's why the self-help stuff that we're following doesn't work? That's certainly something to think about. Really something to think about. Okay. One more thing I'd like to do, well, two things. One is, are you willing to pay the price? And I think most people would say, yes, I'm willing to pay the price. I'll do whatever it takes. But then when it comes time to actually do it, are you truly willing to pay the price? And that's how I think you know if you're on the right track or not. And if you really want something down deep enough that you're actually willing to do whatever you have to do. I mean, whether it means picking up the phone and calling people or sending emails or actually going out and getting another job or trying to sell something to people, whatever it is it takes to accomplish your dream, are you willing to pay that price? And I think that's what really needs to be thought about in every action we take. Is this action getting us towards our dream? And if not, what action do we need to take to get to our dreams? And maybe that's it. Maybe all these years I've just not been willing to pay the price. And that's why I've jumped to so many different programs. Maybe that's why other people do the same thing, is that they get a program, they read it, they get all excited, but they don't stick with it because the price they have to pay is a little more than they're willing to do. They just don't want to work quite that hard. So they look for another program that promises riches and health and this and that. And it's the kind of thing I think with dieting, How badly do you want to lose weight? And there's a guy out there, his name is Richard Flint, and I suppose you can find him on the internet. I haven't listened to him in a couple of years. He's pretty intense. But what he always says is, I don't look at what people say. I don't listen to what people say. I listen to what they do. And if you think about that, that's really, really strong. That look at your life, and don't look at what you say you're doing. Look at what you're actually doing. If you want to lose weight, are you actually eating the proper amount? Are you actually doing your exercises the right amount of times? Are you visualizing what you want it to look like and feel like? Or are you just saying, oh, I want to lose weight, it's a desire? Or it's the same thing. I think he's big into network marketing. People that get into network marketing want to make all this money, and then end up saying it doesn't work. But did they actually do what they were supposed to do or not? So that's what we're going to leave this with today, is look at your actions. Don't look at what you're saying you want. Look what you're actually doing. And is that the same thing? And if not, then maybe you just really don't want it. Okay, I opened the book up, and sure enough, I opened it up to Habit. Another great choice, I guess. Let's try this one. Is George Dana Boardman. It says, sow an act, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. And once again, I think that fits perfectly with what we're saying here. He's saying, sow an act, reap a habit. So if you want something, take action, start that act, and do it over and over, and all of a sudden you're going to have that habit. Maybe it's as simple as talking to 3 people a day about what you want to do. Reap a habit. And then sow that habit, do the habit over and over and over again. All of a sudden it becomes part of your character. And I think now we're talking about Jim Rohn, saying that don't become a millionaire for the money, but for the kind of person you have to become in order to make that money. So you reap the character, and then sow a character, and reap a destiny. And once you become that kind of person, you can do anything. So thank you so much. I really enjoy you listening. Once again, the numbers are looking great. I love your comments. Go ahead and check out the website. We've got a couple of interesting offers on the website. And I want you to find what works for you. I have 3 or 4 offers on there for self-help information. So look at it, see what seems to fit with you, and then stick with it. That's the key. There's I think we're featuring one called QT, Think Right Now. And they give you a message every day, which is really neat, because it's not just a message, but it's an action message. So you learn about it, and then it tells you what to do to improve your life. Really awesome stuff. Once again, thank you so much. Oh, and I forgot, I've been listening to some stuff on podcasting. It says how important it is to be consistent. So we're going to look at having these podcasts on every Tuesday morning and every Friday morning. So it's every Tuesday morning and every Friday morning you should find a new podcast.